everyone. Welcome back to Echo. Last we left off, Leo had an altercation with Clint, the resident meth head cat. And they were getting pretty hot and bothered later on. Well, Leo and Chase, but Leo seems to have seen something in the reflection of the mirror. I wonder what it could be. I mean, I already know what it is, but anyways, let's begin. Wow. Clint hasn't been lying after all. What? Leo whispers it at me from across the table, not looking up from his phone. Nothing, just finding some interesting stuff. I whisper back. Good. Leo grins, but still doesn't look up from his phone. There isn't much to go off of. After reading through it, I'm pretty skeptical of the Haunted Echo, the main source of my documentary. At least, the bit of information I just came across references some newspaper article from 1952. The young wolf named Robert Smith wasn't even a resident of Echo. He'd been resting at the Echo classification yard after taking a train from the capital. He was on his way to the west coast, and once he thought he'd found the right train, he attempted to board it. No one knows exactly what happened, but somehow his train hopping went horribly wrong, and he was found with both limbs severed 2 hours later. He'd managed to crawl 20 yards north along the rail before he was found. Somehow, impossibly, he survived the ordeal up to that point. This was mainly due to the mud packs that he had been placed on his stumps, halting the bleeding. Of note was the fact that Robert had seemingly become delirious because of blood loss, pain, trauma, or more likely the combination of all three. He claimed that the bleeding had been stopped by a creature of some kind. When he tried to describe it, he began to sob and scream incoherently. It's hard to say how much of this is being exaggerated by the author. Either way, I don't have time to track down all the sources, so I decide I just have to trust it. My leg jumps as something soft and ticklish brushes up against it. I snap my gaze up at Leo. What? Leo gives me an innocent look while he continues to brush his tail against my leg. Well, if you're not going to say anything, then please stop doing that. It's distracting. He does stop then, and I feel a little guilty, so I look back up. And thanks for getting me the library card, just so that I could check this out. It's a huge help. He smiles. No problem. Nutria. Nutria? Not one of your sexier words. I return back to the book. It's unlikely that Robert would have survived anyway, due to the extent of his injuries and infection. Still, it is of note that he ended up committing suicide a few hours after the discovery. He apparently slipped out of the 5th floor window of the Peyton Regional Medical Center, though authorities simply dismissed it as a case of a man knowing that his demise was nigh and finished the job himself. The author speculates it had something to do with the horrors he saw on the tracks. I hear a soft whine coming from in front of me, and I lower the book to find Leo draped across the table on his chest. He's looking up at me with huge puppy eyes. I can't help but smile because it's so fucking adorable, even for a wolf as big as him. What? I have a project to do, remember? Yeah, I know, but we've been here for 3 hours, man. You should take a break. I look at the time, and I'm shocked that he's actually right. How the hell did that happen? Well, I guess that's a good idea. I was just finding some really interesting stuff. I'm sure that project of yours is going to turn out awesome. He grins and stands up abruptly, grabbing my book up as well as I couldn't continue to read. Let's go get some lunch. It's almost already 3. Alright, did you want to go to the diner? You want to eat there? Well, it's been a few days. I like to catch up with the others, you know. I know that's what you wanted to do. Actually, everyone's busy. I already tried. Really? What are they doing? Well, Flynn's working, TJ and Jenna are on a hike, and Carl's asleep. Oh. It doesn't really seem like Leo to just blow off meeting with the others, but I guess at this point in the trip, he's just tired of trying. I know I would be. Oh, he's not tired. Probably just to show me up after what I said last night. Leo takes me to a semi-fancy steakhouse. He, of course, insists on paying for everything. I'm not really sure when Leo became so concerned with how I perceive his income. I don't mind though, the meal is good, and I'm happy not to pay the $30 price tag. It does remind me of his job though, so I ask him about his schedule. He says his parents gave him the entire week off, which surprises me. I remember how Leo worked almost every day in that shop. I guess his dad is just mellowing out with age. Again, I have no reason to complain though. On the way back, Leo nudges me as I'm nodding off and gestures out his window. Peyton High. Sure enough, our old school is visible out the window. Want to swing round? Just to look at it? Yeah. I'm tired, but we're not doing anything else. Alright, why not? It's past 5 at this point, and as we pull up into the parking lot, there are only a few cars scattered around. We walk around the side of the school, then onto the football field. If Peyton's high school put its money anywhere, it was definitely sports, like pretty much every single American high school. It's always sports, never music or anything else. That was one of the reasons I was so mediocre by comparison. Every sport in the school was extremely competitive, each one winning state regulars. They win state again since I've been gone? Nope. Came close last year though. Almost as close as we did back in '09. Oh yeah, you still sore about that? Leo sits down on the top bench of the concrete benches, and I sit down next to him. Sometimes. Mostly because we're so damn close, and it really just feels like it was yesterday. There's like a glare right there on the screen. I'm trying to fix that. Okay. It does kind of feel that way. I can remember it pretty clearly. It was one of those few times I'd seen Leo really cry. He'd wanted the championship so bad. I lean back and look around, breathing in deeply. Wow, it's really nostalgic being here, isn't it? Leo looks off towards the sunset and I can see him get glassy-eyed. It is weird that if I could... No, is it weird that if I could, I'd go through high school again? I think for a moment. Not really. I like to do it too. I made a lot of mistakes. Well, not really because of that. More like it was a lot of fun. I just want to experience it all over again. I grin at him. Hey, you're talking like you peaked in high school. Did I? The question catches me completely off guard, and he stumbles around for words that follow doesn't help. What follows doesn't help. No, he sighs. Leo, you've got a good paying job, your own house, a pretty damn good life. You're doing better than most. He laughs a little. I guess. I just don't feel like it, you know? Why not? He leans back. Well, I don't really feel as good as I did back then. When I think of high school, or even further back, man, those were the good old days. I think about how completely inverse I am to that. How my life improved exponentially after I left the town. Well, you know, if you keep looking back, I don't think you'll ever be happy. He looks so sad. I wrap my arm around his shoulders, which is a little difficult considering how broad they are. Because 5 years from now, you'll probably look back at this era of your life and think, man, I wish I could go back. You're probably right. So, let's just enjoy. Now. Leo sighs again, then looks straight down at me, meeting my eyes. Chase? Yeah? He pauses, looking off to the side before turning his eyes back to mine. I love you. I immediately look away. Chase, please. Please just come back. I miss you so much. Every day. I stare out across the field, not able to meet his eyes again. I'll stop smoking. I'll stop picking on Clint. I'll get rid of the gun. Please just come back. I don't know, Leo. You know how I don't like it there, and I feel like I should keep my options open to find a good job, a good place to live. Just for a year or two, while you're getting on your feet, I'll give you a place to stay. That sounds great, Leo, but to get back together, that's like setting ourselves up for another breakup, and I don't want to do that. But then we know for sure, without parents or school in the way. It'll just be us, and then, even if it doesn't work out, there's some closure there. For the first time, I feel myself seeing things from Leo's point of view, and not necessarily losing anything by at least trying. Oh, yeah, you are. And he's right. There really wasn't any closure, mostly because of me. Leo must sense my indecision because he immediately presses forward. And I'll be making enough to support you while you figure things out. Hey, I don't want to mooch. I don't mind. I just want you to be comfortable so you can do what you want to do. But, Echo. Leo's quiet for a while, a long while before he finally speaks up. Now that I can't fix. But I guess one way to decide is to weigh what's more important to you. You're asking me to choose. I'm not asking that exactly. Leo glances at me. But if I did, I blow out a long sigh. So you are. He doesn't say anything, so my mind starts wandering over the years we'd spent together. Despite how much we fight, there's no question in my mind what the answer is, and it hits me like a thunderbolt. Well, I choose you. All at once, his face explodes into a grin. So much happiness in one expression that I don't think I'll ever be able to take back what I just said, even if I wanted to, you dumbass. And instantly, I'm wrapped up in a tight, warm hug, one that crushes the air out of my lungs. Then again, I did exactly the same thing, so... Oh my god, Chase, I love you so fucking much. Hey, but you've still got a year of school left, so we're gonna have to get back into contact, and we're gonna have to exchange. I clasp his muzzle shut with my hand around it, and he just stares back at me with wide eyes. I didn't even say yes. I take my hand away from his muzzle. Oh, well, what do you say? I look again towards the sunset, past the concrete bleachers and goalposts in the direction of Echo, and take a deep breath. I look back at Leo. Dumbass. Yes. And then he's kissing me. It's not rough at all like at the train yard. His mouth stays closed, but he holds my head gently, and it's like he's trying to pour all his love into me through my lips. As ridiculous as it might sound, I can feel it. Leo's heavy, soft body presses me into the bed, licking and kissing up my neck. His hands slide up and down my body, feeling out everything, and he's gasping like he can't catch his breath. I lay there, my eyes shut as I feel his cock pressing up against mine, writhing every time Leo reaches down to grasp them together. I slide my own hand down his back until they reach his rear, and I squeeze hard under his tail, forcing another gasp out of the big wolf. Slowly, he starts to lick down the length of my body, starting with my chest, then down my stomach. He pauses to snuffle and tease against my navel before his mouth finally closes around me. My eyes roll back as I clutch into the sheets, arching my back. I listen as Leo showers down the hall, and I smile as I hear him singing. I'd usually shower with him back in the day, but I was so tired I passed out as soon as we both finished. Once I opened my eyes again, Leo was already in the shower. I'm about to drift off again when I hear Leo's phone buzz. He'd been on it all day, probably trying to coordinate a meeting with the others. It's already Friday, which is hard to believe. We had to get together again before we lost the chance. I look over, the screen is already lit up, so I sit up and look. A message from Flynn. Yeah, well, fuck you too. Not exactly a surprising message to get from Flynn, but I still wonder what they're fighting about. From the sounds of it, Leo is still in the middle of his shower, still rocking out his diva pop song. Fuck Leo's privacy. With some amount of guilt, I reach over and grab his phone and open his texts. I scroll through the conversation to earlier this morning. Chase has a project to do. Bullshit, you fucking with him again, huh? I'm helping him. You planned this from the start, didn't you? What? This whole thing, it was to get back in his pants. How about I plan this after you, ruin the entire week, huh? Yeah, well, fuck you too. I frown. It's too bad Leo and Flynn are still fighting. but for some reason their exchange has me feeling uneasy. I pull up his next recent text thread, one with Carl. Carl asks Leo when they're hanging out again, yesterday night. Leo pokes some fun at him about sleeping in the crawl space. Then Leo tells him that he isn't sure, that I'll probably be too busy with my project to hang out. Leo never asked me. I feel my heart start to pound. Today Carl texted again, asking how things were going. Leo tells him that I wanted to go to the high school for nostalgia's sake, that I wanted to be alone for it. He sent that 2 hours before we even got there, before he acted as if I was on some whim. Then Jenna asks Leo if he's avoiding her, if she said something wrong. Leo tells her everything's fine, but again, I'm too busy to hang out. And then his text to TJ. Hey, yesterday was so much fun. I know you said you were probably going to be busy, but I wanted to check. Chase is still pretty sad about what happened Monday. I think he needs more time. Oh, okay. Please tell him I'm sorry. He told me he was fine yesterday, but I guess he must have been faking it for my sake. Yeah, he's still pretty broken up. We'll figure it out, though. I'm gripping the phone hard. Could Leo have really done all of this? To TJ especially. I sit there quietly, listening to my wolf continue to sing. My stomach twists up as I realize now I have to confront him on this. I'd let things slide before, but this is on a different level. I hug my knees and stare at the wall, feeling strangely violated now. As I stare, I see a dark spot with spindly legs move across the wall. The spider pauses as if acknowledging me before disappearing into the corner. I sit on hard, uneven ground, shivering as I try to cover myself up with a blanket. My eyes adjust enough for me to realize that I'm outside somewhere, looking through the branches of dead trees to the many stars above me. Aside from the calls of a few birds, it's completely silent. I stare up at the sky for a while, wishing that it wasn't so cold, so I could go back to sleep. Where am I? The slight confusion I feel is mixed in with the apathy of just waking up in a familiar setting. I can remember my parents forcing me into Boy Scouts 10 years ago. I hated it so much, especially the camping. I could never fall asleep, and when I finally did, it would be marred by me tossing and turning, waking up in confusion as to where I was. I'd sit up straight in the tent, looking around me for 10 minutes, wondering why I was in complete darkness and sitting in a sleeping bag. Except now, there's no tent or sleeping bag. My mind works slowly, like it's drenched in molasses, and I knead the ground with my fingers, digging them into the dead vegetation and soil. And then finally, I break through the barrier to lucidity, and I realize what's happening to me is real. I'm outside. I look to the left and right, and see that I'm surrounded by trees and bushes. The smell of sagebrush and dirt fills my nostrils as I unsteadily get to my feet. My limbs and flesh are numb from the cold, and I rub my hands up and down my arms, trying to find some warmth. Did I sleepwalk? I must have, unless Leo took me out here for some reason, or someone else did. I shiver. There's not much else I can do except walk forward. Ahead of me, it looks like the branches clear out into more darkness. I hope that's just behind Leo's house, where I know there are some bushes and trees. Either way, I can't be that far from his house. So I start walking, reaching out blindly to move past sharp branches and prickly bushes. The pain wasn't that bad, not nearly as bad as you think it would be. I look back behind me, staring hard into the blackness. I can't see anything beyond the branches right in front of me, which gives me the impression of gnarled teeth. Quickly, I turn back around and push through the dead vegetation in front of me, trying not to panic. But I knew I was dead the moment I looked down. The branches scrape across my cheek, and another stabs me hard in the hip as I run right into it. 2 stumps, gushing blood, splashing the wheels of the train rails. I finally break out into the open. Now I can see more stars above me, but the complete lack of moon makes almost everything around me impossible to see. I can at least tell that it's a large clearing, but no matter how hard I squint, I can't see ahead of me. Tentatively, I start walking forward, looking left and right for a sign of light that might help guide me back to the town. I can feel a whirring seed of panic starting up in my chest, and I worry it's gonna explode out at me any second. The last thing I need is for me to be running through the night screaming my head off. Pretty soon, I become aware of what looks like a large block in front of me. Again, I reach out with my hand, walking slower as I approach whatever it is that's in front of me. They press up against something rough, hard, and cold. Whatever it is made up of some type of metal. It feels broken and rusted, so I assume it's old. Was it a warehouse of some kind? I sidestep to the right until my hands run up against some bars that stick out the structure, and that's when it hits me. It's a freight car from the old train. Sure enough, the next thing my hands meet is empty space, so I come across what I remember to be the open door I had sat in earlier. I was out in the train yard. I almost laugh. Did my anxiety about finishing the project cause me to sleepwalk all the way back out here? At least, now I know exactly where I am. I rest my hands on the edge of the car, breathing in the musty air inside. There's a hint of something sweet and sick on top of it, and it crosses my mind that anything could have crawled inside and died. I quickly move away from the car. Turning my body in the direction I know Leo's house is in, I start walking again, poring through my recent memories to see if I could somehow remember how the hell I got there. The text doesn't fit in the box. I remember Leo coming back into the bedroom, putting his arm around me. Then nothing. I definitely fell asleep. Sleepwalking is the only answer. The sound of rustling behind me makes me jump, but I keep moving forward, not wanting some tiny creature in the grass getting me spooked. Squinting ahead of me, I see no light yet, which is strange because I know Echo should have at least a few lights on, the street lights at least. A loud metallic clang fills the air, and this time I do whirl around. Hello? My voice is still scratchy from waking up, and I cough to clear it. Hello? The loudness of my voice actually startles me, but the response is silent. Did a bird hit it? Maybe I knocked something loose when I was feeling around. I'm definitely not going back to check it out though, so I quicken my pace and start moving again. That's when I hear more shifting around in the car, like something is rolling around inside. I stop walking again and hold still, perking my ears as I try to hold my breath, heart pounding. This time, I don't call out, and instead just listen. I swallow, and it's so loud I almost jump out of the sound. But again, the sound stops completely. I wait a while longer before I start moving again, this time at a slight jog. A crazy thought enters my mind where I think maybe Leo and I got really drunk and maybe we both came out here and blacked out. And that Leo is in the train car right now, hungover and rolling around. It's in the middle of that thought, though, that the sound starts up again. It's louder this time, and ends with it cutting off for a split second before something heavy thuds to the dead vegetation below. I stop again, but this time, it's so that whatever it is doesn't hear me, knowing that if I keep walking, the heavy crunches of my footsteps will allow it to pinpoint me immediately. My throat is completely dry, and a new thought enters my mind. It could be Clint. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he comes out here to sleep in the train cars. That would totally be something he'd do. While it does ease my worries a little bit, I'm not fully relaxed because I know that dumb fuck has a gun. I also know he wouldn't hesitate to shoot at something if it startled him. So I crouch down a bit, waiting, listening, and now I'm pretty sure I hear breathing. Ragged, wheezing breathing that definitely sounds like Clint. I gather up some spit in my mouth so my tongue doesn't stick to the roof of it and take a small breath. Hey, Clint? I say it gently, quietly, but I'm sure he can hear me. I get more silence in return, but I also get the distinct feeling that he's listening back. I try again. It's me, There's an explosion of energy and the sound in front of me, but it's not a gunshot. Instead, it's a sense of forward momentum that I can physically feel, that whatever it is that's in front of me is lunging forward at me. Two loud thuds, one following the other in less than half a second, followed by an explosive dragging sound. The cycle repeats. The second it ends, whatever it is sounds desperate, almost maniac. But I don't stick around to find out because before I know it, my legs are carrying me through the clearing as fast as I can. All thoughts of what it could be are gone from my mind as I dodge into the trees and bushes to my right, knowing that if I can break through the other side, I'll be right in front of Leo's house. What's behind me, though, is moving impossibly fast. Already, it sounds like the distance between me and it had been cut in half, and as I'm struggling between branches and sagebrush, I hear it break into the brush with me. I gasp as I full-on panic sets in. Leo! Leo! I scream as loud as I can, knowing that he should be able to hear me, also knowing that he sleeps like a rock. The thing behind me seems to double its efforts at the sound of my voice, and the cycle of its movements increases. It now has the momentum of a gallop. My breaths are coming in panic gasps, and now I know I'm not going to make it because it's only 3 feet behind me. As if a window opens up in the back of my mind, I see it. Two clawed hands outstretched towards me, a face that flashes past too fast for me to make out, but I manage to see a blipless mouth, and then it slams into my back and crushes me into the ground against sharp branches and rocks. I gasp as the air is crushed out of me, but before I can suck it back in, those hands wrap around my neck. I struggle and pull, but it's like I'm an ant under a foot. I'm so thoroughly pinned that I can't even budge an inch. There's hissing behind my head, and I feel dripping against the back of my neck. Tears squeezing out of my eyes as I try to reach forward, but it's like I'm paralyzed. Paralyzed. I'm yanked back suddenly, my face coming out of something soft and white. A pillow. Chase! Chase, you okay? Leo's husky voice whispers in my ear as I take in huge gasps of air. Whoa, can't breathe? I cough and gasp, my face wet with tears as I sit in the bed looking around. Oh baby, it's okay. Leo draws me into a warm hug, and I take it limply, my mind only now catching up. I cough a few more times. Sorry. Paralysis. Couldn't move. Leo rocks me a few times, making shushing sounds. I remember you telling me about that. Good thing I was here to pull you out of your pillow. I nab against his chest, realizing how dangerous it could have been if he hadn't been there. I usually come out of the paralysis in under a minute, but sometimes. I shudder and pull back out of the hug, wiping my face. What did you dream about? I try to think back, but the dream is fleeing my mind as fast as whatever it was that was chasing me. Oh, comfortable. What was chasing me? I can't remember. Leo rubs my shoulder and looks at me. It's dark, but I can see the white in his eye patches, giving him an almost ghostly appearance. You want to stay up? I can make you tea or something. The adrenaline is already leaving me to be replaced by fatigue, but the offer sounds nice. Sure. All right. Want to come with me? I pause, then shake my head, wanting to collect myself alone for a moment. Nah, no, just give me a second. All right. Leo leans forward and kisses me on the forehead before leaving me alone in the dark room. I lay back down on my side, trying again to remember what I had dreamt about. I was in the woods, and something was after me. That's all I can recall. The warmth Leo left in the bed quickly has me drowsy again, and I'm about to drift off when something pokes me in the foot. I try to ignore it, but that thought of an insect of some kind has me reaching down to feel at it. It's hard and crackly, whatever it is, and when I pull it up, I find a dead leaf. Frowning, I pull back the sheets, and there, clinging to the fabric and fur on my foot, is dead. It's dried and leaves. Dirt and leaves, oh my god. Saturday. Leo wakes me up early the next day, telling me he has to settle some stuff with his dad at the shop. I don't get much of a chance to ask why or for how long before he's out the door, yelling something about food being in the fridge. I immediately fall back though, and when I open my eyes again, it's 2 hours later. Leo texted me half an hour ago. Still at Pop's shop, but be back soon. I think. Someone's in trouble. I swallow back down the lumps of dread in my throat, and I remembered the text messages. I didn't want to confront him, not one bit, but I can't just let it sit. Something has to be said before I leave. I lay around for another 20 minutes before grabbing my phone to browse a bit. That's when I realized I hadn't charged it last night. My battery is just at 25%. I groan and throw an arm over my eyes. One day left to do the project. And I'm so far behind though that I'm not even feeling any anxiety about it at this point. Just resigned. I should have known better, really, that I wasn't going to get anything done with Leo around. I stare at the wall for a while longer before I force myself to sit up. No use lying around. I might not be making my best project, but it didn't mean I couldn't do a few things to make it less terrible. Food momentarily crosses my mind, but I shrug it off. I'd never been a breakfast person anyways. As soon as I leave the house, I notice things are a bit off. Firstly, it's dead quiet. Usually there's some kind of drone, whether it's the wind or a plane overhead. There's usually something. No sound of birds either, and those were always chirping in the morning. I stand in the doorway for a bit, feeling a vague sense of tension, electricity in the air. Something's building. I shake my head, feeling dizzy. That dream last night had fucked me up all kinds of ways, so I'm not surprised that it's probably still messing with me. I'll be glad to be gone from this place tomorrow. Some rustling next door draws my attention, and I see Kudzu carrying a set of clippers walking across his front yard. I open my mouth to say hi, but hold back, feeling self-conscious. His brooding nature was a bit intimidating, and I don't know if he's the kind of person who expects a greeting or not. I'm not left to wonder long, though, because he spots me immediately and raises a hand. Morning. Oh, hey there. He grunts before setting his attention on a bush in front of him, sizing it up. I stand there awkwardly for a bit longer, wondering if that's the end of our exchange, but he speaks up again. Leo take off? He nods his head to the empty driveway. Oh yeah, earlier this morning. I walk down the front porch and walk over to the edge of Leo's lawn, so it doesn't look like we're yelling at each other. Said something about having to take care of business with his dad. I see. Kudzu stops trimming and looks up at me before smiling. You can come on my lawn. It's not like I have an electric fence or anything. Looking down, I see that I'm towing the edge of his immaculate lawn on Leo's side, looking like a little kid. I blush before stepping over to crunch along the tan-colored gravel he had set out. It's weird how nice it all is, especially compared to the shitty trailer sitting in the middle of it all. If he had an adobe-styled house, the place would be Southwestern perfect. This all looks really nice. I guess gardening is your hobby? Thanks. Kudzu snips at the bush rather aggressively. I like it. It's what I do most of the day. The raccoon moves to the side of the bush, examining it. It's peaceful. He gives the bush another snip before resting a hand on his hip while he lets the clippers dangle there. And it keeps you in shape. I can't argue with that. Although he's skinny, the muscles shone through the fur on his arms. He's probably the most in-shape guy I'd seen in Echo. I realize I'm staring and quickly snap my eyes back to his, but he's already smirking. I worry he's about to point out that he's caught me, but instead he gestures at the camera bag with his clippers. Gonna do something for your project? Ah yeah, need to get a bit more film before I leave tomorrow. The slender raccoon wipes his forehead with the forearm. Anything in particular? I think. Not really, just some old stuff to show the town's age. Kudzu sticks the clippers into the ground, looking up as he seems to think. I knew a few things. You got that old school? Yeah, I was headed there actually. And then there's the ruins next to the lake. Yeah, I was gonna wait for Leo to drive me there later today. Other than that, there's the old rusted pump up the road. But I don't know if that's actually from Echo's earlier days. Couldn't hurt to look. Where is it exactly? Kud points over his shoulder up the road. Down past Duke's house, right before the convenience store. It's kinda hidden back in some brush, but I can take you there. Oh, if it's no trouble. It's fine. I've got plenty of time to do this today. Well, alright, thanks. I shift the bag on my shoulder and stand to the side as Kud tosses the clippers beside the bush, then starts walking towards the road. I follow him quietly, feeling awkward under his no-nonsense attitude. So, you and Leo getting along? Yeah, we're having fun. It's fun. My mind wanders back to the text messages, and my stomach clenches. Good. He's been looking forward to this for a week. Well, for a while now. Wouldn't shut up about it last week. I'm somewhat surprised that it's Kud filling the silence between us. Not that I mind. He's pretty damn good at it for such a somber guy. I smile. Yeah, that's Leo. He really misses our old pack. Or does he? Kud huffs a laugh. Wolves. I agree. Wolves. As we walk, I can smell the heavy musk coming from the raccoon, mingled with his scent neutralizer. Evidence of a hard day's work. There's something special about hanging out with another musky creature. It makes you feel less self-conscious. So, I know you hate Peyton, but you don't have to go there back for work. You don't have to go back there for work. Back in the day, I had a job studying desert plants after college. Good times. That would definitely put him a few steps above most everyone else living in Echo, where a high school diploma is a rare thing. I'm a clerk in the town hall, so no, I'm pretty much always here. Always? Do you have a car? Sold it after I came here. Wow, don't you have to get out to shop for food? Sometimes. I grow and fish for what I can, and the convenience store has surprisingly good produce section, while otherwise Leo gives me rides once in a while. Ah, gotcha. Again, I'm curious about what exactly happened in Peyton. I'm going to be gone by tomorrow, and I don't find the question to be too intrusive, especially with all the information he's provided me so far. So, I don't want to be nosy. I let the statement hang for a moment, and Kud turns his head towards me. Then maybe you shouldn't ask? That stops me short, and I almost stop walking. I feel my face get warm, even under the heat of the sun. I glance over at the raccoon, but his expression isn't accusatory or angry. It's just as neutral as it always is. It makes me wonder if this is just the raccoon's way of speaking. I already know how blunt he can be. I decide to trust what little I know about him and press forward. No? I ask it with the same straight face. Well, you should always ask yourself if asking something nosy is a good idea. No reason to do it if it's going to piss someone off needlessly. Ah. But before I can even consider, Kudzu goes on. Now, considering what we were just talking about, I can probably guess what you're going to ask. I can feel the embarrassment returning. Yeah? But before I answer it, I have a question for you. I shrink a little into myself. Yeah? Why do you care? This question definitely catches me by surprise. And at first I wonder if it's just Kud's way of telling me to shut up. But again, after looking at his face, I decide to just tell him the truth. I clear my throat. Well, I like you. You're a cool guy. It comes out rather lamely, but it is the truth. He has a demeanor of not really giving a fuck about what others think of him. It's like Flynn, except Kud doesn't seem like he was putting it up as a front at all. On top of that, he stepped in to stop a crowbar-wielding drug addict when he saw his friend in danger. Kud laughs, genuinely, and it's a bit startling. That's really the reason? I'm flustered again. Well, yeah. Fair enough. And I like you too. Leo was mostly right about you. What did Leo say about me? A lot of things, but you can't expect a wolf as love-smitten as he is not to exaggerate, can you? Ah, no, I guess not. I step on a particularly large rock and nearly lose my balance. Before I can even stumble, though, Kud's grasping my arm tightly, stopping me from running into him. Whoa, sorry, and thanks. This raccoon had damn fast reflexes. No problem. I start to walk again, but Kud doesn't move. I stop and glance at him, but he's looking up the road, not at me. I lost someone in Peyton. It takes me a moment to realize what he's talking about, but then I do. By a guy with a gun who didn't give a fuck. I swallow and don't say anything, looking down at the ground. Happened on the same street we lived on. Of course, I have no idea what to say and wait for Kud to go on, but he doesn't. When I look up to see that he's looking right at me, I swallow. Yeah, that would make me want to move too. Yeah, people, and there's less of them here. I'm sorry. Kud just looks back at me. Why? I open my mouth, but before I can say anything, Kud smiles. Kidding. I let my breath out in relief and laugh a little. Well, should we keep going? I make it as if to walk up the road, but Kud doesn't follow. When I look back, he nods at the brush on the side of the road. It's right here. I wasn't expecting much, and I'm not disappointed as we come up on the pump. Mostly it's just a rusted piece of metal sticking out of the ground. Kud seems a bit put off by how lame it is himself. It's smaller than I remember it was. Meh, it's something at least. I'll get a few shots out of it. I start unpacking the camera from the bag a bit, reluctant to do it for something so insignificant. How'd you find this thing anyway? I look towards the road, which is basically hidden by the dense brush in front of me. Needed to take a piss. I know my house is right there, but peeing outside is liberating. Ah, speaking of which, I'm gonna go do that. He pauses. I can do it in front of the pump if you like, for effect. I force a laugh, wondering if this is the first time I've heard the raccoon make a joke. At least I hope it's a joke. My laugh turns to a groan, though, when I see the battery level. First my phone, now this. What's up? Kud asks, from a bit deeper in the brush, facing away from me. My battery's low. I'm not gonna have enough for the school. I'll have to go back and grab a spare. Oh, well, why don't you finish the footage for the pump while I run back and grab another battery? You sure? Well, yeah. I'll be faster. I've been in his house for a few times. Where's it at? In a dock on his desk next to his computer. All right, I'll be back. And with that, Kud jogs off from the brush and back onto the road. Within a minute, I feel like I have all the footage I can get out of the pump. I sigh and rub my face, glad to at least be out of the sun, but annoyed that I've gotten so little footage for it. As I'm doing this, I hear what sounds like a gag behind me. I perk my ears and look back. I hear it again, but it's softer, more of a grunt this time. I'm almost positive that Kud didn't go that way, but I can't imagine who else it would be. Kudzu? I wonder if maybe the heat has gotten to him. I know how dangerous a heat stroke can be. Getting a little worried, I start moving further into the brush. Again, I hear a gag, and it's much louder this time. Kud? You alright? I start pushing deeper in with a bit more urgency. Wait! Don't skip ahead of me. I start pushing deeper with a bit more urgency, and now 20 yards in, I come into a clearing. The ground is covered in dead grass, and the sun hits me again with a vengeance. I blink furiously, eyes watering under the brightness of the clearing and the blazing red behind my eyelids. After a few seconds, I'm able to pry my eyes open. The first thing I notice is a peeling trailer at the right, pressed up into the trees. I have some vague memories of a trailer back here, where a grumpy badger used to live. Straight in front of me is the meadow. In the meadow is a dead tree, one with dry, gnarled branches that twist up into the sky. The tree itself would be eerie enough, but it's what's under it that stops me dead. It takes a moment to comprehend what I see. Hanging from the lowest branch is a body, long and thin, emaciated down to a skeleton. I remain rooted to the spot, my mouth hanging open. Disgustingly, my mind immediately goes to the camera. I don't know why. Yeah, showing footage of a dead body to the whole class. Either I'd get an A for being edgy, or I'd fail for showing a fucking dead body. Probably expelled, actually. I feel my stomach starting to turn, and I'm finally able to take my first step back. But then it moves. It's a quick jerk. One of the skeleton's hands are reaching up spasmodically to its neck before lumping back down. With my eyes fully adjusted to the sun now, I recognize the color of the fur, the build of that skeleton-like body. Clint! On unsteady feet, I manage to stumble forward and reach out towards the ringtail, aiming to at least hold him up until I can shout Kudzu over to help. Somehow, though, he's able to spin and face me, his face an expression of mortified fury. His eyes are almost glowing with how bloodshot they are, and his twisted muzzle is covered in drool, leaking down his chin onto his chest. Get back! Leave! What? Clint, what the hell are you doing? I move forward again, but Clint lashes out with a foot, hitting me in the knee. That's when I see his toes are touching the ground. At least, barely. I stare in confusion and look back to meet Clint's furious eyes. Fucking leave! Spit flies from his muzzle as I take a step back, completely at a loss for words. I don't. His bulging eyes move from mine to look over my shoulder, and his enraged expression melts, eyes growing wider. Slowly, I turn around and my vision is filled with a mountain of brown fur. My eyes take a moment to draw out and focus when they do. I realize that I'm actually looking at a bear. A huge one, even for a bear. Huge, naked, and carrying a long, thin branch. The bear stands in the direction I'd come from, grinning stupidly at me. Instinctively, I widen my stance, eyes looking left and right. All reason has seemingly left the land of Echo, and now my brain is left to try and put the pieces of the crazy place together. I watch as a huge tongue sticks out from between the blubbery lips to look at them, sliding slimily between the gaps of missing teeth. Once he's done that, he breaks out into a grin again, those black lips shimmering under the sun. This a friend, cat? The weirdly high-pitched voice is about as startling as his size. I look back at Clint, who's still struggling to stand on his toes, clutching at the rope now. So hard finding a good switch back there. Oh, but now, it's worth it for two of yous. The squeak that comes out of my muzzle seems to perk the bear's stubby ears, and he licks his lips again as he eyes me up and down. I should get going. Sorry about seeing. Words fail me as the bear takes a step forward, and I start to sidestep, preparing myself to make a run for it. The bear mimics my stance, and my stomach drops as I see him take another step forward. I change my trajectory and back away instead. This time he doesn't follow me, but grins as he watches me move back into the brush. Clint struggling at the end of the rope, twirling around lazily as he tries to get a foothold. I get one last look at his face as he spins around, and I'm struck by the expression. For a moment, I'm 9 years old again, running behind the building on Main Street, probably from imaginary foreign agents of some kind. When I hide behind a tree next to Clint's house, I hear the screen door open, and for several minutes, I watch Clint breathing deeply into a rag. I'm too young to understand, but for some reason, I know it's not good. When I finally decide to run from my hiding spot, Clint looks up and we meet eyes. His are wide and wild, confused and hurt, just like now. I stumble into the brush, finally feeling like I'm far away enough to turn and really make a run for it. Kud is standing next to the pump when I get back, holding a battery. What? I grab his arm and yank him towards the road. Come on! I mutter it under my breath before jogging down the road, Kud close behind, looking over her shoulder. It's not until we're at the end of the road, turning onto Main Street, before I'm able to slow myself down and tell Kud what happened. Holy shit, that's Brian. Who? I'm still panting, sweating heavily in the heat after the short jog down the street. Big ass bear that lives in the brush, right? He has his trailer in there. I don't know him. Did he move in after I left? I thought a badger lived in the trailer. I assume so. He was here when I got here. Well, what the fuck was he doing? What the hell did I just see? My mind is still processing it. I don't have an answer. Can't say I'm surprised, though. Are you serious? That's like the most fucked up thing I've ever seen. Kud smirks. Well, I guess I would have had to have been there, huh? I stare at him. Yeah, I guess. But from what I know of Brian, he's dumb and violent. Pretty sure he came here because he caused too much trouble in Peyton. It's Clint that's fucked up. That's the fucked up part. He's a fucking homophobe, but he's doing that shit. I don't know much about Clint either. What I do know is that Brian is his dealer. Really? Well, really the entire town's dealer. It made sense that Clint would need one in Echo, considering he was banned for life from driving after getting like 3 DUIs. But I thought Jeremy did that. Carl told me that's where he gets his weed. Kud shrugs again. I assume Clint is using more than just marijuana. Huh. It's becoming clear what kind of relationship Clint and the bear have. I shudder, just wishing that I hadn't had to witness it. I already feel bad for Clint. But now... Kud holds out the battery, still in his hand. Wanna move to the school? Yeah, let's do that. The next hour is pretty uneventful, though I do get enough footage to the point where I'm satisfied. There is a point where I notice Duke down the road. He stands there for a while, watching us as I'm getting different angles of the school. It's annoying, but even though he's a complete fuck-up, he likes to pretend like he's in control of things in Echo. Probably just promoted himself to the sheriff of the town in his mind, or something. I ignore him though, and the next time I look up, he's gone. I turn my attention back to the project, finally able to calculate how much work I actually have left. Now most of my work is going to have to happen the night before the due date. I swallow, stomach churning at the thought. On the bright side, all of the stress is pushing the memory of Clint being hanged and whipped out my mind. Later on, I finally get another text from Leo just before my phone dies. Heading back. I'm hungry. We should meet at the diner. Sure. I invite Kud to come along, but he tells me that he can't stand the diner food and that he was gonna go fishing anyways. It's too bad because I've really been enjoying the raccoon's company, and fishing sounds relaxing. I try to exchange numbers with the raccoon, but my screen dies the moment I turn it on. Kud takes my number though and promises to text me. I'm feeling better walking to the diner, but then I remember what happened with Leo, what I might have to do. Should I bring it up now? I don't even know where I'll end up going. Or where it'll end up going. Could I even trust him again? He's not in the diner when I get there. I pick the booth towards the back, resting my head against the patchy cushions and closing my eyes. The week's gone by so fast. It feels like only yesterday that we actually got here. Thinking back, I remember worrying about everything that was gonna be awkward. That our past would catch up in the worst way possible. And it kinda did. We didn't fix or talk about anything. That gives me a jolt of realization and sadness. This whole time I'd been preoccupied with Leo, and Leo with me. Wasn't Leo the one that was all concerned about us not keeping the pack together? This send-off feels empty and pointless. It's really the last time I'll get to hang out with some of them, mainly Jenna and TJ. And TJ had the most shit to air out. Did I fuck up by basically ignoring him this whole time? I feel a lump in my throat as I think about the hike I never went on with him. Sure, I'd figured things out with Leo, at least temporarily. Very temporarily, actually. Already things are at a jeopardy again. But now it feels like things I should have talked about with the others have been buried further. Even though I haven't seen the others for a few days, I can feel their resentment knowing that Leo and I got what we wanted. Or at least, I thought I got what I wanted. Especially after leaving them to deal with the fallout of Flynn's meltdown. And now, because of that, it'll be harder to reach the root of the problem, harder to talk about it. And because of that, we probably never will. I glance at my dead phone, reminded of the complete lack of text from anyone other than Leo. I suppose this is life. Some things are buried and never talked about again. And in a way, I guess that's for the best. Sydney's death will die with us. It just sucks that we all carry it, but stop moving by yourself. But can't rely on each other for support. I take a deep breath, wondering how long it will take me to process this whole trip. Or maybe my entire life up to this moment. It's at this point that I notice Janice hasn't come up to take my order. The diner itself is completely quiet, no old rockabilly coming over the staticky speakers. I look around, wondering if maybe the place is closed. I remember a few businesses didn't lock their doors, mostly because of negligent employees, because burglary is somewhat common here. I looked at the plastic windows in the swinging door of the kitchen, past the counter, and noticed that the fluorescent lights are definitely on. In fact, it looks like I can see some movement from the shadows on the walls. I think about getting up and knocking on the door to let them know I'm here, but that's when the front door push is open. Leo comes in, a big grin on his face. Chula! My stomach twists as he sweeps up to my side and can't help but jerk it away when he kisses at my cheek. He pulls back, frowning. Jace? I sigh, not able to meet his eyes. Leo, I need to talk to you about something. Immediately, I can see worrying in his eyes. He steps back, watching me. What? Sit down. Why? Leo asks, but he sits down anyways. First of all, I have to tell him that I looked at his fucking phone, and that's bad enough. I look to the right, heart pounding. Otter? What is it? His voice is soft, but I can hear the slight tremble in his voice. Leo, I looked at your phone. What? I jump as Leo's hackles raise and he bares his teeth. It's not an angry reaction, more defensive, fearful. Leo. Why the fuck would you do that? I shrink back, looking down as I listen to his breathing pick up. I'm sorry, but you know what I saw. Fuck, man. Leo puts his face in his hands, which gives me an opportunity to look up. His ears are down, drooping towards the table. Why did you do that? I wait while Leo continues to hide his face, his body rocking. Not now. Not now what? You can't do this to me now. Not after... I didn't do anything. You're the one texting people that I don't give a fuck about them. His head snaps up, then I can see his eyes glistening. I didn't say that. Just said you were busy. And what you said to TJ? Leo winces at that one and he slumps back into his booth, his face dejected, desperate. Please, Chase, just try to understand. What? I let some anger in my voice, wanting to show Leo that I'm not just going to forgive him just because he's sad. And I think he realizes that because his face changes, lips bared out of anger this time. Yeah, I'm really fucking guilty, aren't I? Yeah, you are. Says the asshole that just ditches me, avoids me, and won't talk to me. I don't say anything in response. And you wonder why I fucked up this time? You're the one that just walked out and left me. I was young. Yeah, you keep saying that like you're not young now. If you had actually dumped me, then maybe I wouldn't be this fucked up about it. The last sentence escalates into a scream, and I flatten back into the booth, glaring up at him. Leo had never hurt me before, and I'm not afraid he will now. I've endured plenty of his tantrums. Do you know how crazy this makes you look? Oh great, you too. I'm serious. This is fucking unacceptable. I'm drawing the line here. Leo's snarling face turns up, and that's when I hear movement behind me. I turn in my seat and see Janice striding out from behind the counter, the kitchen door swinging shut behind her. Janice? Leo's fur flattens back down like he's forgotten all about the argument. It makes sense why. Something's wrong. Janice had been acting strange all week, gradually looking more haggard and pissed off as time went on. Of course, I hadn't forgotten what happened on the side of the road a few days back, but I'd been content with just assuming it had been some type of drug-fueled adventure of hers. Now I'm convinced she's having a mental breakdown. Her fur is mussed up on every inch of her body. Her eyes are wide and wide, similar to how I'd seen Clint earlier. Blood is smeared across her apron, and the handle of a knife sticks out from the front pocket. Janice? Are you okay? Leo's half standing. I'm not sure if it's because he's afraid of her, afraid for her, or of her. She doesn't say anything, and she slides up next to our booth. I slide a bit towards the inside. Under her wild gaze, I'm feeling a little trapped. Janice? Why all the shouting? Little impatient. Well, let me take your order and I'll get you settled. Are you okay? Are you cooking? Leo gazes at her apron. Yes, I'm cooking today. What can I make you? I get the unnerving feeling that she isn't even looking at us. Leo glances back at me, which I respond with a bewildered look of my own. You know, I think we might... Nonsense. I've got everything fired up in the kitchen. Leo doesn't respond, just stares at the big coyote. Janice smiles crookedly. Well, if you're not going to order then, I'll just make you your favorite. With that, she turns and starts wadding off, having not even acknowledged me. What the fuck? I reach into my pocket thinking about calling an ambulance for the poor woman until I remember my phone's dead. I whisper over to Leo. Should we leave? Maybe. But Leo doesn't move, just stares after Janice, looking out the window to the sun-baked road. Have you noticed that something's off? About Janice? No shit. Not just her, the whole town. I think about mentioning the meadow with Clint and Brian, but I'm still trying to absorb that myself. Leo sits back, still looking back at the kitchen door where Janice disappeared. Honestly, people act so crazy here. I don't know if it's because of the drugs or because they're actually crazy. I see his nose twitch. And I don't think she knows how to cook. Something smells funny in there. I look back out the window, wondering if I should bring up our argument again. The scene with Janice has totally thrown me off, and I'm reluctant to waste more energy on yelling. It has to be brought up again somehow. We just can't let it sit there. It's clear that's exactly what Leo wants though, so I huff and stare out the window. This fucking town. I haven't been paying much attention to it in the past few days, being infatuated with Leo. Sure, I'd seen some weird things, but it seems in my absence everyone's gone to the fucking wacko shack. I look at Leo. Have you been noticing any of this weird shit going on? Leo sighs. Again, I never know what's weird or not here. I guess I've noticed a few things. I frown. Were you just hoping I wouldn't notice? Leo doesn't say anything. Instead, he just goes on staring at the kitchen. Would he really let me blindly move into this town when he knew everyone was going crazy? Looking at the window, I notice a figure moving up the street, jogging. A feline? TJ? Is that Tej? Leo glances out the window. Looks like it. For a jog, of course. The wolf turns his attention back to the counter as Janice comes out, a messy, dribbling milkshake in her hand. Hey Janice, what are you cooking back there? I glance at the crazy coyote as she wobbles over to us, staring at the milkshake with wide eyes. Oh, you know, meat. Leo lets out a hollow laugh. Ha 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 ha, what kind of meat? I'll be honest with you, it's a bit tough and stringy. I lose interest in their conversation and instead look back out at TJ. I feel like something's off for sure. He's a ways away, but he looks kind of afraid. One of his hands reaches out to bat at something. Something's wrong. I mutter under my breath and start to stand, set on getting out of here to see what's going on with him. But at that moment, a truck pulls into the parking lot right in front of our window. I find myself staring right at Duke. I also see something big in the back of his pickup, a brown-furred, head peeking over the roof. Duke? Leo snaps his head over to look out the window. As the weasel gets out of the truck, I see something in his hand. A gun. Shit. Language, Leo. He's bringing in a gun. Leo reaches across the table for me. Not while I'm here. Janice. But she is already striding over to the doors, just as Duke pushes through them. Chase, get down. But Duke spots us immediately. I told you not to fucking run away from me. He starts towards our table, but Janice, on her way towards the kitchen, intercepts him. Duke, is that a gun? I am not going to have you barge in here, ruining the peace. He sticks her bulky body in his way. Get the fuck out of my way. Language. It's as if Janice doesn't even notice that there's a fucking gun being waved around right next to her face. I reach out and grab Leo's arm, trying to pull him down. Call the police. My phone's dead. Leo slowly sits, then looks around. The only exit is at the front. We're trapped. You don't think those fuckers are behind all this? You've been seeing that otter around too, haven't you? I'm not concerned with that anymore. I've made things right. You're not fucking concerned with what's happened to our grandparents is happening to us? I won't ask you to leave again. Her voice is threatening. From this angle, I can't see her hands, but I can see she's reaching for something. Oh my god. Chase, get down. Leo's voice is bizarrely calm, but as he reaches over to me, I can feel him shake. He presses down on my shoulder as I'm trying to slide under the table. I see Janice move forward, then I cover my head and cower against the booth under the table. Leo shouts and yanks me up against his side, covering me with his arms. I hear him breathing heavily into my ear, and I stare wide-eyed from under the booth, only able to see the dirty, beige wall opposite us. Leo's breathing is all I can hear. Otherwise, it's silent. Then I hear Duke muttering something under his breath, followed by soft, padding footsteps. A few seconds later, his legs come into view, and his feet turn in to face us. I see the gun dangling from one hand before he raises it softly, pointing it at us. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I'm going to leave it on a cliffhanger. But yes, that escalated pretty fast, didn't it? But them's the pits when you live in Echo, I guess. But I wonder what's going to happen and what Duke has in store for Leo and Chase. Because it seems like the town is getting pretty crazy. Well, I mean, I already know what happens, but you guys don't, presumably. Anyways, thank you for listening, and we will hopefully continue this tomorrow. Yeah. Bye-bye.